There's many different ways of designing and constructing a V8 supercar, even though for most of us we simply see two brands of car. From team to team, the cars are completely different, often sharing only the basic control items like engine block, diff, gearbox and tyres. Teams use their own technology and ideas to design what they see as the perfect car, one that is powerful yet economical, below or right on the minimum weight, has the lowest possible centre of gravity, is structurally rigid and, importantly, is sensitive to adjustments. There's no ideal setup that can be simply copied from car to car. Each chassis has its own personality and every driver has his own preferences when it comes to what he wants from that car. And also, what works on one day doesn't necessarily work on another. Track condition, temperature, wind, air pressure, air density, all these factors can influence car performance and behaviour. But for all the rocket science, there's some basics to observe. A balanced racing car is predictable to drive, it evenly and progressively transfers weight in both pitch and roll, and neither the front or the rear slides excessively relative to the other, resulting in too much understeer or oversteer. Understeer meaning insufficient front end grip, and oversteer resulting in a lack of rear grip. Rarely a race car is perfect, and tinkering is an epidemic right up until race start, and for some items the adjustments continue throughout the race. Here's just a sample of the typically adjusted items. First up, springs. They come in many variations and their job is to capture, store and release energy transmitted by bumps. Springs are frequently changed in both the front and the rear of the car for either softer or stiffer versions in rate variations as small as 25-pound increments. This is done to better connect the car to the road in the search for grip. And when we talk about a 1,000-pound spring, that's the force required which is generated by bumps to displace or move the spring. And the values to choose from? A typical rear spring range for these cars is between 200 to 500 pounds, while the fronts are between 500 to 1,000 pounds. Shock absorbers dampen the energy released by the springs. There's a huge variety of brands and many different team design philosophies in search of efficient performance. They function using oil and gas passing via a complex series of pistons, valves and these tiny shims. There's limitless internal adjustment combinations. Great care is taken to map the shocks to suit the circuit. Very low shaft speeds control body movements, while higher shaft speeds deal with the larger bumps, including curb hopping. There's a huge tuning emphasis in this area, and for good reason. Keeping the car connected to the road is critical. Roll centre adjustments represent one of the most critical tuning areas on a V8 supercar's performance. And when we see a pit crew member making an adjustment to the rear roll centre, for example, we see him doing it externally. What's happening is, via a cable through the bodywork down to this threaded bolt here, this bell crank in the Watts link hanger is moving up or down and dragging these control arms with it. Now simply, as the whole mechanism moves higher in this bracket, the car has an increased resistance to body roll, and when it comes down lower, it has a reduced resistance to body roll. And what it all sums up to is the higher this goes, the better the car turns, the lower it goes, the more traction it has. The Ford and the Holden both run the double wishbone front suspension, and changing the front roll centre height can be done by either altering the anchor points on this top arm or simply adjusting the lower arm in one of these three locations. And obviously this is quite a complex task, and it can't be completed in just a simple pit stop like, for example, the rear. Anti-roll bars link the wheels on both sides of the car to each other and also to the body, and as the name suggests, they limit body roll, and they're a feature on the front of the car and also down here on the back of the car. And simply, here's how they work. As the car rolls, it simply tries to twist this bar. To change the roll characteristics, the teams have available a great variety of bars. They vary in outside diameter and also in the wall thickness of the tube. For finite tuning, we also have available these cockpit adjustable blades. Now, to understand how this concept works, simply grab a kitchen knife and it'll become quite clear. When the blade is in the stiff position, the full effect of the anti-roll bar is in play. However, when the blade is in the soft position, it gives before energy is transmitted to the bar, therefore making the effect softer. Where the wheel's point is critical with these cars. Camber is adjustable on the front and rear of a V8 supercar. Camber is the angle of the wheels in the vertical plane. In road racing, negative camber is required to compensate for tyre distortion under lateral or side load to maintain the maximum amount of tyre contact with the road. Adjustments are usually made in half-degree increments. Typically, there's around 6 degrees of negative camber on the front and about 2 degrees on the rear. Toe-in or toe-out can be applied to either the front or rear wheels and is measured in the horizontal plane. Tiny amounts of toe-in on the front often provide some straight line stability, whereas maybe 1 or 2 mil of toe-out might help the initial turn. Adjustments here are minute and have very big effects on lap time, tyre temperature and life. The rear wing on both the Holden and the Ford is fully adjustable. On the Ford here you can see there are 11 different adjustment positions representing a range of 10 degrees. Now with more rear wing you get more downforce, but you also get more drag, which slows the car down in a straight line, and that's the trade-off between downforce, drag and straight line speed. Changing the ride height also affects the roll centres in the front and the rear, as well as influencing the aerodynamic behaviour of the car, especially the critical relationship between the splitter and the road. Now this is the front right shock absorber assembly. To make a ride height change, you simply adjust this spring perch. One turn of this equals 2 millimetres of ride height change to the car. The rake, which is the angle or height of the car at the front relative to the rear, is also critical. Ride height adjustments are usually quite small. Most changes are no more than between 2 to 10 millimetres. There's big chunks of time to be gained by managing the brake system properly in these cars, and the variables that you can play with include the overall disc rotor size in terms of outside diameter, the wall thickness of the rotor, the treatment on the disc face like holes, slots or patterns which affect the bite or friction, the number of cooling vanes, the type and size of brake pad, of which there are many to choose from, cooling and ducting, and determining the right brake master cylinder sizes to get the correct proportion of front versus rear brake and to achieve the right feel in the brake pedal. Larger master cylinders provide a firmer pedal, smaller master cylinders provide a softer feel. In this category we use a control tyre, therefore everyone has the same type of tyre. But apart from the compound and construction of the tyre, we also need to think of the tyre as a spring. To adjust this spring, we adjust the tyre pressures. Managing tyre pressure across a day is very important, especially as the track conditions and weather change. 1 pound either way from the target value can transform a car. So in summary, as you can see, there's a lot more to motor racing success than simply driving the car fast. It's about unlocking the millions of combinations and variations in order to get the car to suit the conditions and to give the driver confidence. And that's especially so at Bathurst with 1,000 Ks and almost 7 hours of racing and 2 drivers to satisfy.